Hello, AP Stat students. This is Mr. Hazelhorse coming to you live from room A08 today. I hope you first off enjoyed that video treating depression. Is there a placebo effect on CBS News? And I think that video pointed out a lot of the things that we're going to kind of mention in today's little video about experiments and what can go wrong. The main point of the video was about placebo, but there were some other concepts that were covered in that video that we'll kind of refer back to as we walk through today's lesson. All right, so again, just like all of Chapter 4, today is going to be a lot of terms and concepts and things that we need to apply in the right situations. All right, so some things, again, that as a student of statistics we should be aware of when we read the results of a study, when we think about the results of a study, and it just allows us to question things better, ultimately. All right, so let's jump right into it. We're going to cover three things today, and the first one is the placebo effect that you just watched the video on. As we learned from the video, a placebo effect is simply when patients respond favorably to a dummy treatment. The best example they gave in the video was people feeling better after a kind of a fake knee operation where they operated on the knee, they opened it up and closed it right back up. They did nothing else to that knee. That's just a great example of a placebo effect. We hear about placebos. You've probably heard about these many, many times. All right, and what we have to understand is that the logic of a randomized comparative experiment, right, which those are two key components in order to design a quality experiment. It needs to be randomized. We need to have something to compare. Well, all of that depends on our ability to treat all subjects the same in every way except for the actual treatments being compared. Right? So therefore, good experiments require really careful attention to details to ensure that all subjects really are treated identical. All right? So again, in the example that they gave in the video about the knee operation, right, if we want to study the actual effectiveness of the operation, well, that means that the patients in the placebo group, or the control group, as we refer to it, they need to be treated the exact same way, which means if my treatment group gets cut open, right, then my control group gets cut open. The only thing that changed was the actual surgery itself. All right, and it's the same thing with medicine. All right, if I'm going to do a medical study and my experiment is going to involve people taking a pill, and my control group doesn't take a pill, well, now they're not treated identical. All right. Now, placebo pills are often just sugar pills. They have no impact on people whatsoever. All right. But again, it's the psychology of people that we need to make sure that they think they're a part of a study. All right. They think that maybe they really do have the medicine. And if we see a placebo group, just as effective as an actual pill group, well, now we know that pill's not as effective as maybe people claim. All right. Another great example is just, think back to when you were a little kid. Whenever you fell down and got hurt, you always wanted your mom and dad usually your mom, right, to kiss your boo-boo, so to speak. All right. Now, the kiss has no active treatment, but how many times do we see kids feel better because of the kiss? Right? It's a placebo effect. Right? It's the same thing that happens with people taking a sugar pill or being involved in a fake surgery or whatever it may be. All right? And so we have to understand how placebos can impact the results of a study. And that's one of the things that can go wrong. All right, is that the placebo is just as effective. Now, on my classroom website, I've left a pretty entertaining article that if you need something to do this weekend, give it a read. But it's an article from 2003 in The Onion. All right, again, we've mentioned The Onion before. That's kind of satire news group. But the name of the article is FDA Approves Placebo, and it's in the Chapter 4 folder. And it's just a one-page article, and it just kind of makes a joke of placebo. But it also makes some really good points about placebo that we can learn from. All right, now the second kind of characteristic that we take into consideration is the idea of an experiment being double-blind. All right, now again, we recognize that not only do people react differently who are being involved in an experiment, but also the experimenters. All right, the actual, if we're, again, doing a medical study and we have doctors doing an evaluation, they can act differently if they know what treatment people are getting, if they're getting the actual treatment or a control treatment. And so what we do to combat that is we create what's known as a double-blind experiment, which is when neither the subject nor those who are doing the interaction with them, whether it's a doctor doing the measuring or whatever it may be, they have no idea which treatment a subject received. All right. What you involve is you involve a third party, right? A third party does the assignment of what group people are getting. They track that. And then for the people being experimented on and the actual experimenters, they are both blind to the treatment that's being received. And the whole point behind this, all right, is again to try and treat every experimental unit or subject the exact same. Right? Because if a doctor knows what treatment a person has received, they might interact with that subject differently, and they might even diagnose them differently, and they might not even do it purposefully. All right. Again, it might be some unintentional bias, but if I'm a doctor and let's say I've created this new pain medication, and I know for certain that you do not have the pain medication that I have created. You are in the control group. You're just getting a sugar pill. All right, if I ask you to rate your level of pain and you say it's a 9, all right, I'll just go, okay, mark it down a 9. But let's say I'm a doctor and I know that you are in my treatment group. You are getting this actual pill that I created. And somebody comes in and I ask you, okay, rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10. And you say, well, I'm a 9. And again, I know that you're getting this pill that I've created and I've invested a lot of time and energy into it. And so I might be a little shocked by that. And I just might respond with a simple little question like, you sure you're not feeling any better? And they might respond, well, maybe I'm a 7, and just that little different treatment of people automatically begins to introduce some bias to the results of this study. All right, and again, that's the benefit of an experiment being double blind. All right, now, just good statistical practice and good experimental practice is that any experiment involving human subjects should be double blind. Because again, of just the simple psychology that goes on in our human brains, that is such a lurking variable and a confounding variable that is so hard to control. And double blind is the best method that we have to use to combat just the psychology of both people being studied and the people doing the studying. All right? Now, the final little concept that we want to comment on today, and it was mentioned in the video as well, but is the idea of being statistically significant. All right, and if something is statistically significant, that means it's an observed effect so large that it would rarely occur by chance. And that was the point that the guy was making in the video when they were doing these studies on depression and even the knee surgery, is that there was not a statistically significant difference between the treatment group and the control group. And it's the lack of statistical significance that makes them question this whole idea of these depression drugs. Okay? And that's what we need to see in an experiment, is we need to see a difference that is so large that it didn't just happen by chance, right? Like there is some meat behind this. There's some reason behind this. And here's just a simple little cartoon to kind of help illustrate that example. All right, so here we have a lab with a whole bunch of rats in it. And one of the rats says, when Dr. Henderson comes in, everybody play dead. In a lab setting, if you have 1 or 2 of these rats that die, that's not statistically significant. I mean, that probably happens on a day-to-day basis, right? But if every rat is dead, that's statistically significant, all right? You have something that, what are the chances of every rat dying on the same day, unless it's because of whatever experiment's being run on them, all right? So a simple little joke, but I think it drives home an important point as well. So I hope those are 2 or 3 kind of concepts that make some sense to you, and you'll get some practice with them in your homework assignment today. All right? So today's homework assignment's on page 261 or page 289 of your ebook, and it's problems 67 through 73 odd. Again, this video, along with the video about placebos and depression, are posted on my classroom website. So if you feel a need to go back and review these, I would encourage you to do that. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.